We would like to call this evening's meeting of the Peoria City Council to order. Welcome Joe Deacon and his listening audience at WCBU as well as Cable Channel 22. Madam Clerk, the council microphones are open for roll call.
Mayor Artis, Councilmember Ali,
Present.
Councilmember Sear, Councilmember Graham, here. Councilmember Jensen,
Here.
Councilmember Kelly, Councilmember Montalongo, Councilmember Euler,
Here.
Councilmember Riggenbach, and Councilmember Ruck-Regal. You have a quorum present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have a couple housekeeping issues quickly. In accordance with Governor Pritzker's Executive Order 2020-07, as amended and extended, limiting meetings to the lesser of 25 persons or 25% of the overall room capacity, and requiring the provision of video, audio, or telephonic access to meetings, as well as the CDC recommending social distancing of at least 6 feet between persons. City Hall is implementing changes and restrictions for the City Council meeting on March 23rd, 2021, while complying with the spirit of the Open Meetings Act. The council meeting will be held in person in City Council chambers. There is a room capacity restriction of 25 persons at one time, which would result in a wait to enter if met. Temperature screenings and face coverings are required for access inside City Hall. Members of the public and media are invited to watch through the live stream on the City of Peoria's website, YouTube, local television channel 22, or listen through WCBU radio. While public comment is available in person, the option to submit comments through the city clerk's office due to room capacity restrictions was available as well. Any submissions will be read into the record. The agenda, minutes, and video podcast of the meeting will be available online through the city's website. We also have a notice that was received by a member of the City Council in accordance with the rules established in Ordinance number 16142, and the member will be deemed authorized to attend the meeting electronically unless a motion objecting to the member's electronic attendance is made, seconded, and approved by 2/3 of the members of the City Council physically present at the meeting. If no such motion is made and seconded, then the request by the member to attend electronically shall be deemed approved by the City Council and the presiding officer, and shall declare the requesting member present. We did have a request that was received by Councilmember Moore to attend electronically, and I'm seeing no objections from the floor. So, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Moore,
Present.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to ask everyone to join us and stand for a moment of silent prayer or silent reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two proclamations this evening. The first is for Parkinson's Awareness Month. Do we have anyone here representing? Okay, hi. You can just stand at the podium. I'll read the proclamation, and then you're welcome to make any comments that you would like to. Whereas Parkinson's disease is a chronic progressive disorder of the nervous system that affects movement, for which there is currently no cure. And whereas 1 million people in the United States are currently living with Parkinson's disease, an additional 50 to 60,000 new cases are diagnosed each year, making Parkinson's disease the 14th leading cause of death in the U.S., according to the Centers for Disease Control. And whereas every day, through research, Patient and Family Services and Education, the American Parkinson's Disease Association provides the support, education, and research that help everyone impacted by Parkinson's disease to live life to the fullest. And whereas increased efforts and awareness are desperately needed to help expedite the research efforts into better treatments, medications, and ultimately a cure to help those impacted by Parkinson's disease live life until a cure is found. And whereas the world, the nation, and the state of Illinois observe Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month in April of 2021, and whereas the state of Illinois recognizes the efforts of the Central Illinois Parkinson's Support Group to raise funds and promote awareness to fight Parkinson's disease, thereby improving the quality of life for those living with the disease. Now, therefore, I, Jim Ardis, Mayor of the City of Peoria, Illinois, do hereby recognize April 2021 as Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month in Peoria, Illinois.
Mayor, and all the councilmen and councilwomen that have done this. I think it's probably my 10th year coming down here and receiving this. We appreciate it every year. I look forward to a year that I don't have to do it. With our best medication that we have for Parkinson's being developed before they put a man on the moon in '69, I think I'll be here for a while, unfortunately. It does mean a lot because we do need to get the recognition out there. There's almost one person every 9 minutes diagnosed with Parkinson's. So it's not a nobody disease. There's millions of people out there that suffer with it. Nobody suffers the same. You've seen one person with Parkinson's, you've seen one person. Part of the problem in treating it, everybody progresses different, everybody has different symptoms. When I give a lot of my lectures, I refer to it as the snowflake disease. If you've seen a snowflake, you've seen one snowflake. Every snowflake is different. Everybody with Parkinson's is different. We're fortunate enough here in Peoria to have a very good movement disorder center that's going under a few changes right now. We're losing a few doctors, but we have a couple good ones coming in. So treatment in the Peoria area is very good. I would like to thank everybody for recognizing it. Anybody that wants information on Parkinson's, we have a very good website, artstohands.org. You will also find information on our upcoming April event, April 3rd. We have a multi-speaker event. The new movement disorder doctor will be speaking there. We also have a fundraising event coming up. Unfortunately, it's at the East Peoria Paneras, but it is still semi-local. And the flyer for that is on there, and hopefully we'll get one set up here in Peoria shortly. They wouldn't let me, Paneras wouldn't let me do two in the same month, so I'll have to change that. And, one other thing I wanted to make a comment. We were unable to do this last year because of COVID. But 2 years ago, I stood here in front of you, accepted a proclamation with a few other people from our support group, posted a photo on my Facebook page, and instantly got a message from a gentleman in New York who has since passed away. Enzo Simone has been a Parkinson's, Alzheimer's advocate for years. He created a project about 12 years ago called 10 Mountains in 10 Years. He took a group of actual Parkinson's and Alzheimer's people, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with them back in 2011, I believe. I hiked the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu with him as part of a group. But anyway, he was planning a final episode to that movie, Pilgrimage to Enlightenment, Becoming an Advocate. He spent 11 days in the summer of 19 hiking across the island of Sicily in 100+ degree heat. The long story short, when he saw the pictures of this room on Facebook, he decided to fly in from New York to do some filming. So when this movie comes out in the next few months, your city council chamber should be in that film. He fell in love with this room and had to get some footage and some B-roll footage for it. So we worked things out and got in here and got some filming. Once again, thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Our next proclamations is the 20th anniversary of Peoria Reads. We have Randall Yelverton, the Executive Director of the Library, Roberta Kay, Deputy Director, and also the Board President, Lucy Gully, are all with us this evening. Thank you very much. Whereas the Peoria Public Library and various community partners have worked together since 2001 to present Peoria Reads, a one city, one book annual initiative that promotes community participation in reading. And whereas Peoria Reads encourages Peorians to read the same significant book at the same time in order to bring our diverse community together to promote a better understanding of ourselves and our own humanity. And whereas participating in Peoria Reads will encourage reading, will increase opportunities for discussion between people of all ages, and will deepen readers' appreciation for books dealing with important issues. And whereas this year marks the 20th anniversary of Peoria Reads, which will kick off in conjunction with National Library Week, celebrated from April the 4th through the 10th. And whereas the library book by Susan Orlean has been chosen as the 2021 Peoria Reads selection. Now, therefore, I, Jim Artis, Mayor of the City of Peoria, do hereby recognize the 20th anniversary of Peoria Reads in Peoria, Illinois. Before I recognize Director Yelverton, I would like to recognize our liaison to the library, and that's Councilman Reckriegel.
Thank you, Mayor. And let me first start by saying congratulations on 20 years of bringing our community together. A community needs events that bring them together. And sometimes those events need to be able to push the bounds of discussion, conversation, and really thought, because that's what binds a community together. For 20 years, the Peoria Public Library has done that by choosing books that are relevant, that foster discussion, that bring in outside partners, and truly do help build what we know as a sense of community. Thank you for your work for the library. Please take it to all of the branches, that our appreciation for that work as well. And I would encourage each and every Peorian to make for sure they take the time to not only read the book, but also be able to participate in some of the wonderful discussions and other items that are going to be happening on the agenda throughout the summer on the Peoria Reads. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilman Reckriegel, and thank you to Mayor Artis, the City Council, and City Hall for recognizing Peoria Public Library with this proclamation celebrating 20 years of Peoria Reads, our One City, One Book program. Thank you for taking the time to acknowledge this milestone with us. We are grateful for the strong partnership we have with the City Council and administration. More than anything, we are indebted to the community and our patrons, which is part of the reason we've chosen the title, The Library Book by Susan Orlean, for our 20th anniversary book. Reviewers have said the book is like exploring the stacks of a library where something unexpected and interesting can be discovered on every page. In the past, we've used Peoria Reads as a lens to look at some weighty issues like racism, classism, gang violence, and the opioid crisis. This year, on the heels of COVID, we want to remind you all of the reasons you love your local library. We want to inspire you. We'll officially kick off Peoria Reads this year during National Library Week, which does run April 4th through the 10th. We'll be sharing information and events on our social media and website. We hope you can join us by reading the book and taking part in the book discussions and exciting program that accompany it. I did want to take a moment and recognize our board president, Lucy Gully, who has joined us here tonight. Before I do turn it over to Roberta Koszelski, who's going to be talking about the Peoria Reads program. You might know her as the 2020 Illinois Librarian of the Year, but she's the reason Peoria Reads exists and continues to run. She started this program 2 decades ago and has shepherded it ever since. So I'll turn it over to Roberta. Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you, Randall. It seems like just yesterday that Executive Director of Commonplace, Nancy Rakoff, and I were inviting community agencies to participate on this new One City, One Book project. The project was to bring our diverse community together through one significant book each year. So every year since then, Peoria Reads has worked with community partners such as Methodist College, who does their own Methodist Reads in collaboration with Peoria Reads. They do the same book. Neighborhood House and Bradley University's Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, and others. So as you might recall, last year we chose The Hate You Give, and our programs were cut off because we typically do our programs primarily in March, and so we ended up doing them later in the year because we had such great programs planned. We wanted to talk about implicit bias, for example, and code switching covered in the book. This year's book seemed appropriate for our 20th anniversary because so many of our library patrons told us that we saved their sanity during COVID. When I was working curbside pickup last May at Lakeview Branch, I had a lady whose books I delivered to her car, and she said, I read every book in my house. The only one I had left was the dictionary. So we had many nice comments like that. So if you're not familiar with the library book, and I, of course, brought a copy here that's available for checkout. Stacy has library card applications if you don't have one, so if you tackle me before I leave, you can have this book tonight to read. If you're not familiar with the book, it's really intriguing. The author chronicles the suspicious and dangerous fire that hit the Los Angeles Public Library in April of 1986. In addition to reading the book, we have virtual programs planned, including a series on the history of Peoria Public Library. One segment of that is going to cover controversies related to the library throughout the years. We're also planning a gallery exhibit of artifacts from our archives. When the old main library, previous to the one that's there now at Main and Monroe, was demolished in the mid-1960s to make way for the new one, the public was invited to keep souvenirs from the library, things like doorknobs to even an entire staircase. They say we can't feature the staircase, but if somebody has it and can get it to the library, we'll feature it. But we'd love the public to let us borrow those artifacts to enhance our gallery exhibit. We do have dozens of copies of the library book at our library locations, so they can be checked out. We have the physical book, digital copies, and audio copies as well that you can get either at the library or through our website. It's been a great honor to have the support of the mayor and the city council and our community over the past 20 years for this program. Thank you.
Thank you. President Gully, did you think you were going to be able to get away without saying a couple words tonight?
I kind of did. But however, I would like to reiterate the words that my two people have said, which has been a wonderful joy to be working with them in the library. I do hope all of you will discover and keep the magic alive in the library. They do a great job down there, and we have had some innovative ideas, which has been working great for the community. So please do keep us in mind. It's a great gym on the corner, and keep the magic alive. Thank you.
Well, President Gully, I would like, on behalf of the council, to thank you and the rest of the board as well. Under very trying times in the past year, trying to figure out ways to continue to serve this community with the outstanding library system that we have. You've done a great job, and we appreciate your hard work, and that is as well as Roberta and Mr. Yelverton too. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
We are at the minutes.
Councilman Ruckriegel.
I move to approve the minutes of the joint city council and town board meeting held on March 9th, 2021 as printed.
Seconded by Councilmember Graham. Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We have one town item. 21-071 is a communication from the town clerk with a request to approve the agendas for the annual town meeting.
Trustee Grib.
Mark your calendars, trustees. I believe it's going to be our next council meeting after tonight. We'll be doing our annual town meeting, and that's going to be the 13th of April. You have the agendas in front of you right now. I move to approve those agendas for that date.
Okay, thank you. Seconded by Trustee Kelly. Any discussions on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We're at the consent agenda. 21-072 is a communication from the city manager and the fire chief with a request to approve a sole source purchase of one LifePak 15 defibrillator from Stryker Medical in the amount of $24,920. 21-073 is a communication with a request to approve and authorize the execution of a contract with Resource Management Associates in the amount of $44,975 to administer the Fire Battalion Chief Promotional Examination. 21-074 is a communication to approve a master services agreement with Clifton Larson Allen LLP to provide accounting services to assist the Finance Department in preparation for the city's annual audit in an amount not to exceed $40,000. 21-075 is a communication with a request to concur with the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to approve a resolution amending resolution number 03-444 as amended to remove the access restriction to Jamestown Road for Williamsburg Oaks Townhouses, a multifamily residential development located at 3310 through 3408 West King James Road and 6502 through 6510 North Queen Francis Lane. 21-076 is a communication to approve a state motor fuel tax resolution in the amount of $1,200,000 for the Northmore Road Improvement Project from Allen Road to University Street. 21-067 is a communication to adopt an ordinance amending the following: an ordinance amending Chapter 5 of the City of Peoria Code pertaining to building codes based on recommendation of the Construction Commission to adopt the 2018 ICC International Building Code, the 2018 International Fuel Gas Code, the 2018 ICC International Mechanical Code, the 2018 ICC International Property Maintenance Code, the 2018 International ICC Fire Code, the 2018 ICC International Residential Code, the 2018 ICC Existing Building Code, and the 2017 National Electrical Code citywide, and B, an ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the City of Peoria Code pertaining to building codes based on the recommendation of the Construction Commission to adopt the 2018 ICC International Property Maintenance Code. 21-068 is a communication with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance amending Appendix A, the Unified Development Code relating to zoning review and nonconformities. 21-069 is a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance dividing video gaming terminal fees between operators and establishments. 21-077 is a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance reserving 2021 private activity bond volume cap in the amount of $12,252,680. 21-078 is a communication with a request to adopt an ordinance providing for the issuance of general obligation refunding bonds in an aggregate amount not to exceed $19,500,000 of the City of Peoria, Peoria County, Illinois, to provide for the refunding of certain outstanding bonds of the city and providing for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on said bonds, authoring the sale of said bonds to the purchaser thereof, and authorizing the execution of an escrow agreement in connection therewith. 21-079 is a communication with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance rezoning property from a Class C2 large-scale commercial district to a Class I1 industrial business park district for the property located at 2800 West Town Line Road. 21-080, and on your desk there is a white handout with letters from citizens, is a communication regarding a site application for a Class C grocery packaged good liquor license for the retail sale of alcohol at Al-Qaeda Inc., doing business as 1500 Northeast Jefferson, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to deny. And that completes the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Items to remove from consent this evening, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 21080, please.
Okay. 080. Councilman Sear.
Mr. Mayor, item 075, please.
075. And Councilmember Montalongo.
Already got it.
Okay, thank you. Any other items to remove from consent? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve the remaining items. Councilman Riggenbach, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
21-075 is a communication with a recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to approve a resolution amending resolution number 03-444 as amended to remove the access restriction to Jamestown Road for Williamsburg Oaks Townhouses, a multifamily residential development located at 3310 through 3408 West King James Road and 6502 through 6510 North Queen Francis Lane.
Oh, there's something wrong with my, there it goes. Councilman Sear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to defer this item for at least a second meeting in April. About 3 years ago, we had some development questions over there, and there's a couple. This is not my district, but across the street from this, across the street from War Memorial, we have a couple neighborhoods over there, East and West Northgate Park, that we had very successful meetings 3 years ago when there was a development over there. Excuse me. And I'm receiving a lot of phone calls again, and really there's not enough information out there. So maybe with Councilman Montalongo, last time we worked together on this, maybe we should have another meeting, a public meeting over there for the neighborhoods around this development. And last time Director Black did an outstanding job, so I think it would be great to have a little bit more communication. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to defer to the second week, or to the second meeting in April, correct? Councilman Montalongo, did you want to speak to this before we get a second? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I second that motion. Yeah, I think it's totally appropriate to have that discussion. I know there was discussion about a development there in the past, but there's going to be some changes in perhaps the amount of traffic that may happen at that intersection is something that we could have discussion on. But I think a Zoom-type meeting would be totally appropriate to invite a public meeting to invite all those who are interested in hearing what's going on, and we could certainly have this vote in the second meeting in April.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a motion to defer this in a second. Seeing no discussion on the deferral, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore,
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
21-080 is a communication from the City Manager and Corporation Council regarding the site application for a Class C grocery packaged goods liquor license for the retail sale of alcohol at Al-Qaeda Inc., doing business as 1500 Northeast Jefferson, with a recommendation from the Liquor Commission to deny.
Thank you. Councilmember Moore.
Thank you. I'd like to move for denial with comment on the other side, please.
Okay. Motion to deny, seconded Councilman Riggenbach. Discussion, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's been a lot of discussion about Rocky's Market and the addition or lack of addition of alcohol here. I attended the Zoom Liquor Commission meeting, and it was a lot of people from the community did come out and speak to it, and there were a couple of responses that were in favor. But all in all, at this point, the community, I believe, does not see the need for another liquor store in the area at this moment. But the reason I pulled this was there was a misunderstanding that if there is no liquor, there is no Rocky's Market. And I disagree with that. We've had markets in our city, and I'll point to one in particular, the International Market that's at on Perry Street, that does not sell alcohol, yet has been there for a number of years and is serving the community in a fantastic way. And so the thought that you have to have alcohol in order for your business to be a success, I think is misplaced. Rather, I have already referred Rocky to the Economic Development Department to determine if the city can assist in him bringing in more grocery items there. That is what the community has consistently needed and has stated that they would like to have. In addition to the Community Development Department, we have a fantastic small business development center connected to Bradley University that for free will provide all types of consultation on how this can happen for Rocky's Market. And so I don't want folks who were hoping that Rocky would sell alcohol to think that we're trying to bring his business down. That is quite the opposite. I've told Rocky from the second week he was there that I would make it my business to try to help him to grow his grocery offerings, because that's what's needed there. And so to that end, I'd like to ask the council to deny at this point the offering of liquor with the encouragement to Rocky to continue his quest for more groceries. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? We have a motion and a second to deny. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We are at regular business. 21-081 is a communication from the Mayor and Corporation Council with a request to approve the declaration of local state of emergency.
Councilman Riggenbach.
Move for the approval.
Motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Kelly. Discussion on this item. Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
Motion passes with 10 ayes, 1 no. Councilmember Montalongo. Madam Clerk.
21-082 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to approve a renewal of the contract for landscape stewardship and maintenance project with jymax Landscape, LLC for 1 year to December 31, 2021, in the total amount not to exceed $100,000, which includes up to $80,000 for labor equipment and up to $20,000 for materials. And on your desk, there is a handout, a revised communication that revises the EEO number.
Thank you, Councilman Euler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I need to abstain from this item to avoid conflict of interest issue due to a short-term business relationship with one of the owners. Thank you.
So noted. Anyone want to make a motion on this? Councilman Riggenbach.
For approval.
Motion to approve, seconded Councilman Montalongo. Discussion? Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note that in the council communication, it notes that we had to reduce this due to our COVID budget and the situation we were facing. My question, I guess, for the city manager is whether hopefully we'll be able to bring it back to pre-COVID status once we get the stimulus money. Is that correct?
Certainly we'll be bringing back some recommendations to council about how to spend the ARP money as it comes in. And this is certainly one of those areas that it would be a potential use for that. It's a policy decision for council to make.
And can you refresh our memory as to how much was it reduced, or how does it compare to the prior year?
As we were putting this agenda together, we were trying to list all of these out on the regular agenda because we know that they all are feeling the effects of it. I don't have that number offhand, but maybe Director Powers can come. I know he's put that together. Rick, or Director Powers, do you have that information handy for us?
So this was reduced to $100K.
$100,000. It was reduced $100,000.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion on this item? We have a motion and a second. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
21-083 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to approve the following. A, to approve a contract renewal with jymax for 1 year for tree stump removal by size and tree and brush trimming by hourly rates to December 31, 2021 in an amount not to exceed $70,000. And B, to approve a contract renewal with jymax for 1 year for emergency tree and brush trimming by hourly rates to December 31, 2021 in an amount not to exceed $30,000.
Councilman Euler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be abstaining from this as well due to the same reasoning. Thank you.
So noted. Motion to approve by Councilmember Jensen on item A, seconded by Councilman Ruckriegel. Any discussion on item A? Okay. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to point out that hopefully we will bring this back to pre-COVID levels for funding, if not more, and consider that when we have our discussion about the stimulus money.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion on item A? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously with one abstention. And on item B. Motion by Councilmember Ruckriegel, seconded by Councilmember Jensen to approve item B. Is there discussion on this item? Councilwoman Jensen?
Just the same note that hopefully we will support increasing this funding to pre-COVID levels when we get all the stimulus money.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously with one abstention. Madam Clerk.
21-084 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to approve contracts for the 2021 City of Peoria and Peoria County Trustee Vacant Lot Mowing Program and award contracts in a total amount not to exceed $191,420. And on your desk there is a handout, a revised communication with a new EEO number.
Move to approve by Councilmember Jensen, seconded by Councilmember Euler. Is there discussion on this item?
Yes.
Councilmember Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to know of the contractors that are listed here, Are there any new contractors that were added this year that were not on last year?
Stand by. Yes, Common Ground. So 2 out of 7, Common Ground and Rutherford.
Okay. And then thank you for that. My second question is, are the nonprofit organizations paid at a different rate than the commercial organizations?
Yes, a maximum of $25 per lot across the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you. It doesn't note, did we reduce the levels for this when we were dealing with COVID? It doesn't note that in the council report.
This would be another contract, as well as all of the others that, as we have the discussions about what to do with the funding, we'll make sure that we bring that back. So we can identify for council what that difference in service level was.
Were they all reduced about the same amount?
They were, they varied. Director Powers, do you have the total amount of what the total reduction was in landscape maintenance contracting?
Stand by. So mowing total reduction was 311,427.
That's how much it was reduced by?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion on this item? We have a motion in a second. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
21-085 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request to approve contracts for the 2021 Facilities, Boulevards, and Rights-of-Ways mowing program and award contracts in a total amount not to exceed $47,693. And on your desk, there is a handout on yellow, a revised communication with a new EEO number.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Jensen, seconded by Councilmember Euler. Is there discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
21-086 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Public Works with a request for the following. A, to approve a state motor fuel tax resolution in the amount of $50,000 for the Western Avenue Improvement Project from Adams Street to Howitt Street, Design NFT section. And then B is to approve a state motor fuel tax resolution in the amount of $2,635,250 for the Western Avenue Improvement Project from Adams Street to Howitt Street.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like for Director Powers, if you could explain how motor fuel taxes are used and the appropriateness of use it for this purpose, please.
Sorry, Counselor, could you repeat that question?
Sure. Our motor fuel taxes are used for road work. And I was asking that you would explain how this project fits into the purposes the motor fuel taxes are collected.
Yes, ma'am. State motor fuel tax,
Thank you.
local motor fuel tax for that matter, are used for maintenance and ongoing repairs, added capacity as necessary for roads and infrastructure that fits in the appropriate category for the purpose they were collected, meaning directly related to infrastructure.
Thank you, sir. And with that, I'd like to move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, seconded by Councilman Graeb. Is there any additional discussion on this item? I'm seeing no lights. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
That item passes unanimously. And on item B, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval, please.
Motion to approve, seconded by Councilmember Graeb. Is there any discussion on this item? Councilmember Sear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question for our city manager. On my sheet here, we're approving $2.635 million with the cost of being 2.35, so there's a $300,000 discrepancy there, if I read correctly. Where's that money going to come from? Or am I misreading this?
Well, there's construction costs, and then there would be engineering costs, but overall, this is just the amount of the state motor fuel tax monies that are going into this project. We have other funds that are budgeted that are going toward this. This is more along the lines of a $15 million total project. So this is just a portion of what we have to do to be able to spend the state motor fuel tax dollars on this project.
Thank you.
Further discussion on this item? Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
We are at unfinished business. 21-024 is a communication from Councilmember Kelly with a request to adopt an ordinance designating an area of urban decay and adopting a tax abatement for said area. And on your desk, there is a handout, a revised ordinance with attachments.
Thank you. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, a little clarification. The new item on the yellow paper excludes that area of the North Valley that is currently in the East Village TIF. So that is no longer part of this tax abatement area, just to be clear. I would urge the passage of this. This is a new policy that we're embarking on to help neighborhoods through the improvement of that neighborhood's economics. This tends to work, as I've beaten the drum for some time. This tends to work in other cities. We can't find an instance where this kind of project does not work. It tends to bring in new money, new population, more stability in neighborhoods, less crime, etc. This particular proposal, however, is different than any other that I've ever seen, anyway. And that is that if this works, the land values in these areas are going to rise. And those land value increase, the land is always taxable, so these land value increases will be taxable. Only the new construction has tax abatement on it. So all the taxing bodies will, if this is successful, will gain new revenues from these areas for the first time in quite a long time, even while tax abatement is going on. Part of this ordinance is that the city and the county will take that increased revenue, however much it is, put it in a pot and roll it back into these neighborhoods. And for anyone who's living in one of these new structures that's enjoying abatement, that is living and owning in one of these new structures, that fund will be depleted each year in paying the same proportion of all those folks' state income tax. So a further enticement to bring more middle-class people back into these neighborhoods. Again, the whole thing involves no new money, no particular strings. People have to comply with regular zoning rules, regular building code rules, as they would building a home anywhere else in the city of Peoria. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I would move for approval.
Thank you. Motion to approve seconded by Councilmember Euler. Discussion, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd first like to thank Councilman Kelly for removing the area of the East Village growth, the East Village TIF that included the North Valley. I believe the financial hit that those folks would have taken immediately, or the potential financial hit, would have been something that would have not stood well for our city. Having said that, I am still of the belief that this ordinance will open the door to gentrification of an area that is doing all it can to hold on to its historic character. Those who have spent thousands of dollars to renovate their homes, some back to their original condition, will see no benefit from this abatement. They will continue to pay their taxes, 100% of the taxes that are due, and will see no benefit from that. The second thing I'd like to bring to your attention is that the largest taxing body that we have that attaches our property taxes, I believe, is Peoria Public Schools. And as of this afternoon, when I spoke to Peoria Public Schools, they had not yet signed on or agreed that this would be something that would be beneficial for their organization. And they have indicated to me that they have been waiting for some time to receive documents that clearly delineates what the potential gain or loss would be for the district, so that they could present it to their full board to get an airing for this. I understand that Councilman Kelly did present this to the board, but they were unable to make a determination because they are still waiting for that information. For them to be the largest taxing body that would be impacted by this, and as of this afternoon, they are still waiting for information, I find that to be problematic. One of the examples I'd like to submit to you is, let's say tonight this council decides to approve this urban decay ordinance. What it does, let's say, and once this urban decay ordinance is approved, you've got building like gangbusters. You got homes being built left and right. And those homes bring in families, and they bring in children. And to further go on with my example, let's say there are 50, 75, 100 children that eventually come through this process. Then what we are saddling Peoria Public Schools with is the task to educate those children, because they will educate them no matter how much money they receive. But the problem is, for those 50, 75, or 100 children, they will not be receiving any tax dollars for 6 to potentially 10 years, but will incur the cost of new books and equipment, and perhaps additional adding on a building space to Lincoln School, and they will have to incur that cost on their own. They will receive no property tax benefit from that. And so I understand that Councilman Kelly would not like to see this deferred yet again, although the last time he deferred it for 30 days. I'm just suggesting that he provides the Peoria Public Schools with the appropriate information for them to take a position on this, because right now all they see is that if this is wildly successful, they are going to go deeper into the hole trying to educate children, because that's what they do, and they do a great job of it. But it would be nice if they had a little bit of assistance. So I would ask that this process be deferred for until the next city council meeting, to give Councilman Kelly an opportunity to address Peoria Public Schools' concern that they are still waiting for him to provide them information.
Councilman Kelly.
I can only speak on the deferral or on the points
No,
that...
that was not a motion.
It was not a motion. Okay.
I can make an motion if need be.
That's all right.
Well,
fine.
Councilman Kelly has the floor, then we'll come back. Councilman Kelly.
Thank you. There have been, I met with District 150 several weeks ago, and they had another meeting yesterday. I answered the questions that were put to me. Outside of an answer to the question, what precisely is going to happen? And I have said, I do not know precisely what's going to happen. Maybe nothing, maybe a lot. Apparently, the school district seems to think that this is going to be wildly successful, which I think would be wonderful, and that they're going to have more children that they are going to have to educate. This sounds like a nice kind of a problem to have. Now, the school aid formula coming out of the state of Illinois does not discriminate as to whether or not there's tax abatement or not in a given area. The way things are going now for District 150, all these areas are producing less revenue every year. If this is successful, these areas will be producing more revenue every year from the increase in land value. The increase in land value will be general through the area, not just underneath that new house, but land values in general will be rising. How much? I do not know. But if it is a problem for District 150 to have to manage more and more and more children in their schools, I'll take full credit for that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there additional discussion on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Moore.
So the term wildly successful was mine. It was not theirs. And the school formula, the school aid formula, has always benefited metropolitan Chicago more than it has downstate schools. And so to suggest that as a business owner, let's use it as a business owner example. If I were to go to the bank and ask for funding, and they ask, well, how do you intend to pay this back? Well, I don't know. Well, what do you expect your sales to be? Well, I don't know. Well, how do you perceive this happening over the next few years? Well, I hope it goes really well, but I really can't tell you. I think that business owner would be laughed out of the bank. And so to sit here and to pretend that we are a council or expect that we should be a council that is fiscally responsible, yet we have more I don't knows about something than we have actual documentation from even other cities as to how this has panned out, I think is irresponsible. And so having said that, for lack of a deferral, I would ask that this body deny this motion to bring this ordinance to fruition, because we don't know. We don't know how much it's going to cost. We don't know whether it will be successful or not. We don't know how it's going to impact the schools. The schools don't know how it's going to be to impact them, because they're still waiting for documentation. If this is so successful in other parts of the country, we should have easily been able to provide documentation to that effect, but we have not been able to do that. And so what I would encourage the council is to vote no on this ordinance at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional discussion on this item? We have Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And although I commend Councilman Kelly for pushing us to find new ways to help improve this part of our city. I've had long discussions with him about this plan, and I still have concerns. I think that we need to give an opportunity to the people that live there to have more input on this proposal. I know that there was, I think, maybe a couple meetings that were attempted, but not very many people in attendance with COVID. So that's one of the reasons I'm not ready to support this yet, and I won't be voting for it tonight. And additionally, to Councilwoman Moore's point, I think our focus needs to be on renovating the buildings, the houses that we already have in the older parts of our city. Rather than building new housing, we need to strengthen and improve the houses that we have. So for those two reasons mainly, I will not be supporting this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? We have a motion and a second to approve. Please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore?
No.
The motion passes with 8 ayes and 3 noes. Voting no, Councilmembers Moore, Ali, and Jensen. Madam Clerk.
Item number 21-033 is a communication from the City Manager and Director of Community Development with a request to defer until April 13th, 2021, the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff to adopt an ordinance approving a special use in a Class C1 General Commercial District for a vehicle wash for the property located at 1217 West Glen Avenue and 4926 North University Street.
Councilmember Riggenbach.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our community development staff has continued dialogue with the Developer Club Car Wash, and there's still some dialogue going on. So they asked us last week, I guess, actually, to defer this for 2 weeks. So I would move for the approval of the deferral.
Motion to defer to April 13th, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Discussion on the deferral. Seeing none, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Is there any further unfinished business?
Do we have any unfinished business this evening? Any additional unfinished business? Seeing no lights.
We are at new business.
New business to come before the council. New business.
Yes.
Councilmember Moore.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Just briefly, I wanted to thank the Public Works Department for coming out and visiting with some black contractors and truckers regarding the Western Avenue project. They were able to provide additional information as to how that project is coming, how the contractors are selected, the general contractor and subsequently the subcontractors. And today I received additional information that there may be additional opportunity for those black truckers who attended that meeting last week, and we'll be reaching out to them. And so I just wanted to thank Public Works for all that they are doing to try to make sure that we have the minority participation on this project in this district for a street that hasn't been touched in a major way in more than 35 years. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. New business, Councilmember Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to request that the city manager provide us with a report back on the stimulus money. I know you're probably working on that, but I'm hoping that we can get an analysis of what the total is, whether there's any requirements for some of the money, and then included in that would be what we've reduced and by how much. And hopefully we'll have enough time or opportunity for all of us then to analyze it, have discussions, and give input before any proposed plan is put on the agenda.
Thanks, Councilwoman. I'd be happy to put together a report. One of the key things that we know that in the latest release as of March 8th, of the $350 billion that was set aside for state and local governments, 65.1 billion came to cities, 45.57 went to large cities that receive CDBG funding. So we are one of those cities that would receive a direct allocation of funding, so it wouldn't go through the state, which is good because that means last year with the CARES Act, the state held almost 70% of that back. So at least as of March 8th, what they've identified is $46.09 million that would come to the city of Peoria. There are specific uses for those dollars, responding to COVID-19 and its economic effects. We could use it potentially to pay premium pay for our employees, to restore government services or lost revenues that were lost because of the pandemic, investments in water, sewer, and broadband. There is no pension funding. We can't use it to put it towards pension funding or to offset any tax cuts. We could transfer funds to other governments as part of that. They're going to split it in half. We're going to receive 50% within the next 60 days, and then we'll receive 50% within 12 months. We have until the end of 2024 to spend the dollars. But the big thing that we're waiting on is we're waiting on the Treasury Department to provide the regulations that will outline how we can spend the dollars. So at some point in time, we'll get those regulations from the Treasury Department. And then I think what I would recommend is that we have a policy session where we sit down and talk about all the potential uses, what we reduced. We have to remember, this is one-time revenue. Once it's gone, it's gone. And so that's one of the pieces that we have. This isn't going to be ongoing revenue that's going to provide support. We still have our own fiscal challenges that we'll have to deal with long-term with that. So that's something that we just need to keep in mind as we look at this. But, initially, we built into this 2021 budget borrowing $10 million in order to balance the 2021 budget. That cost of that $10 million that we would borrow would be another $20 million over the next 20 years. So that initially I would say that would be the first thing that we would be able to avoid. So we'll be happy to put all that together, and then we can have a policy session, hopefully once we have that set of regulations from the Treasury Department.
I have a follow-up. As a follow-up on that, the money that we borrowed, did we already issue the bond then?
No, we have not yet. So that's good. I mean, we haven't issued the bonds yet. That was one of the elements that we were looking at possibly doing if we needed to later in the year. So that's something that we'll be able to avoid having to issue that $10 million in borrowing.
Okay, so
the 19.5 that was on the budget tonight is a refunding that'll hopefully save us debt service costs in the future by taking advantage of the favorable interest rates that we have.
it's a previous bond that was issued. Yeah.
Tonight, that was part of the consent agenda. So.
But we didn't issue a bond for the 10.
Not yet.
We're not going to have to do that now.
Based upon the state and local coronavirus relief funds coming from the federal government, I don't believe that we need to.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business this evening? New business? Madam Clerk?
We are at citizens' opportunity to address the City Council and Town Board, and we have not received anything in our office.
Okay, we do have one citizen that's in attendance, Mr. Ahrens. You can come to the middle podium.
Trying to get up to see you, so it's nice to meet you. I had a couple things I wanted to talk about. One was a project that I came up with called Project Apple, and it would involve companies like Komatsu, Keystone, Caterpillar Tractor Company, whoever else wants to donate money. They could write it off on their taxes or write it off as a donation for fruit trees such as apple trees, pear trees, peach trees, plum trees, whatever. It could be planted on Peoria Park District property that is just being mowed. Could be donated to food pantries, churches, or whoever wants to pick the fruit. Also could plant watermelons, muskmelons, cantaloupe, tomatoes, or whatever, or lettuce, or whatever they want to plant, or whatever you guys want to plant on the property. I don't know whether you want to do it with people doing it, or we could have maybe the city supply some money for some Spanish people to work and take care of the fruit trees and stuff. A similar project was done in Decatur, Illinois, on some property that was factory property that was abandoned. They have a black guy plowing it up every year down there. Plant tomatoes or whatever, and just let the people pick the stuff. The apple trees that were planted down there. This is essential for this project to be successful. Is to water the trees that I proposed, because the trees down there were not watered, and the nursery had to donate money that did the project to replant the trees because they weren't watered. So that's one thing. Another thing is the bus stops here in Peoria. This winter was pretty cold, and I think the bottoms of the bus stops that we have should be enclosed, because when it rains or snows, that stuff comes right under. There's a 12-inch gap right at the bottom of them. Maybe the reason they didn't do that is so they can be swept out, but I think that could be taken care of anyway. And maybe some 12-inch strips of plastic could be put on the doors, or sliding doors on the bus stops, because it was cold out there this winter. That's another thing. And another thing is city lift. Let me see, city lift. Maybe the handicapped people could ride the buses free, because I see the buses running around Peoria. No one on the city list. No one wants to pay $2 each way to go, and these buses are running senselessly. Some people are riding them, but I think the handicapped should be allowed to ride free. I don't know what you can do about that, Jim, but okay. And also, I think when people are picked up at the bus stops, the buses need to wait for people that are coming down the road, because I had a bad bike spill, ended up in the hospital. Anyway, I think they should wait for people trying to get on the bus. Another thing is there's a lot of branches over a lot of the sidewalks here in Peoria. I've been trying to ride some of the sidewalks rather than be on the street, because a lot of the streets don't have bike lanes, and a lot of the branches need to be trimmed. And I was proposing maybe some of the or the people that have been in the release programs from the prison and stuff, like over here by the library. I know there's a place where a lot of those guys are. And we got people sitting in jails and everything else, drinking coffee or whatever. But maybe the police could get some of them out. I know they do this in Texas. My brother lives down there in Austin. But they get them out, they dress them in pink, and they mow a lot. They mow property. It needs to be mowed with push mowers, or clean up trash, or do whatever, prune trees or whatever. So maybe that could be something that you could address. Let's see what else. I wrote a few notes down here. Let's see. Maybe get some younger bus drivers that would be not so set in their ways to slow down for people and help people in the buses. And I just wrote a bunch of other stuff down here. I mean, these are probably $1.5 million buses, and the people driving them need not to be tearing the buses up. So I wrote some other notes, so maybe I can hand it over to Stephanie and something can be done about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Do we have any other citizens in the audience that would like to address the council this evening? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
I believe there's no executive session, so then we would be at adjournment.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn. Councilman Sear, seconded by Councilman Reckriegel. Seeing no discussion, please cast your ballots. Councilmember Moore.
Yes.
That motion passes unanimously. We'd like to thank Joe Deacon and his listening audience at WCBU for carrying this evening's meeting, and tonight's meeting of the City Council is adjourned.